The rain pounded the streets of Portland, Oregon, as 16-year-old Isaiah Bennett stood trembling under the awning of a shuttered deli, clutching a soggy backpack. His mother's words still burned in his ears. "You're no son of mine." Cast out for being gay, Isaiah was alone, the city's neon lights blurring through his tears. The night had started with hope. Isaiah had sat at the kitchen table, his heart racing, ready to tell his mother, Lorraine, the truth. He'd practiced the words for weeks, hoping she'd understand. But when he said, "Mom, I'm gay," her face twisted with rage. "Not in my house," she'd spat, shoving him toward the door. By midnight, he was homeless, with nowhere to go and no one to call. Portland's streets were unkind to a black teenager with no money and a secret that made him a target. Isaiah found refuge in a youth shelter, where he met others like him, kids rejected for who they were. Among them was Javier Morales, a 17-year-old Latino boy with a quick laugh and a knack for sketching. Javier's own story mirrored Isaiah's. His father had called him a disgrace and thrown him out. The two bonded over shared pain, swapping stories of dreams they still clung to despite the world's cruelty. Isaiah wanted to be a chef, to create dishes that told stories. Javier dreamed of illustrating children's books, bringing color to gray lives. Their friendship grew in the shelter's dim halls, where they shared stale donuts and whispered plans for a better future. Javier's sketches adorned the walls, vibrant drawings of imagined worlds where no one was cast out. Isaiah, meanwhile, found solace in the shelter's tiny kitchen, experimenting with whatever ingredients he could scrounge. One night, as they sat cross-legged on the floor, Javier slid a drawing toward Isaiah, a portrait of him smiling with a chef's hat. "This is you someday," Javier said. Isaiah's heart fluttered, not just from the gift but from the warmth in Javier's eyes. Months passed, and the shelter became a fragile home. But life was relentless. Isaiah worked odd jobs, dishwashing, bussing tables, saving every penny for a dream that felt impossibly far. Javier hustled too, selling sketches at street markets. They leaned on each other, their bond deepening into something neither dared name. One rainy evening, as they sat on a park bench, Javier reached for Isaiah's hand. "We're gonna make it, you know," he said. Isaiah squeezed back, his chest tight with hope and fear. But hope was fragile. The shelter lost funding, forcing Isaiah and Javier to face the streets again. They scraped by, sleeping in hostels when they could afford it, dodging danger in alleys when they couldn't. One night, under a flickering street lamp, Javier confessed, "I don't just want to survive with you. I want to live with you." Isaiah's breath caught. He'd felt it too, the pull toward Javier, the way his laughter lit up the darkest nights. They kissed, tentative and trembling, sealing a promise to face the world together. Their love became their anchor, but the world didn't soften. Isaiah faced rejection at job after job, his youth and lack of experience a constant barrier. Javier's art, though beautiful, rarely sold. Yet they clung to their dreams, stealing moments of joy, a shared coffee, a sunset walk along the Willamette River. Isaiah began sneaking into community college cooking classes, absorbing every lesson he could. Javier tagged along, sketching in the back, his pride in Isaiah shining through every glance. One day, a chef at a local diner noticed Isaiah's talent. "You've got something, kid," she said, offering him a part-time gig. It was a lifeline. Isaiah poured his heart into every dish, earning enough to rent a tiny studio with Javier. The apartment was cramped, with peeling paint and a leaky faucet, but it was theirs. They decorated it with Javier's art and Isaiah's makeshift spice rack, building a life from scraps. As years passed, Isaiah's reputation grew. He landed a job at a trendy restaurant, where his innovative dishes, blending Southern comfort food with Pacific Northwest flair, drew crowds. Javier, meanwhile, got a break illustrating a local author's book, his vibrant style catching the eye of publishers. Their dreams were taking shape, but the scars of their pasts lingered. Isaiah couldn't forget his mother's rejection, the way she'd turned her back on him. Javier, too, carried his father's words like a weight. One evening, as they lay in bed, Javier traced circles on Isaiah's hand. "Do you ever think about her?" he asked. Isaiah nodded, his throat tight. "Sometimes, but she made her choice." Javier pulled him close. "We're each other's family now." Isaiah buried his face in Javier's shoulder, grateful for the man who'd become his home. By 25, Isaiah was no longer the scared teenager cast out by his mother. His culinary talent had landed him a head chef position at a bustling Seattle restaurant, The Hearth, where his dishes told stories of resilience and love. Javier, now 26, had published his first children's book, its pages bursting with color and hope. They'd moved to Seattle for a fresh start, their shared apartment a cozy haven filled with plants, art, and the aroma of Isaiah's cooking. But success didn't erase the past. Isaiah still woke from nightmares of that rainy Portland night, his mother's voice echoing. Javier, too, carried wounds. His father had never reached out, leaving a void no achievement could fill. Yet their love grew stronger, a quiet rebellion against the world that had tried to break them. They celebrated small victories. Isaiah's first 5-star review, Javier's book signing at a local bookstore. Each milestone felt like defiance. One spring evening, as cherry blossoms blanketed Seattle streets, Isaiah proposed. He'd cooked Javier's favorite meal, spicy shrimp tacos with mango salsa, and hidden a ring under a napkin. Under the glow of string lights in their tiny balcony, he knelt. "Javier, you're my home. Will you marry me?" Javier's eyes welled up as he nodded, pulling Isaiah into a kiss that tasted of salt and joy. Their engagement was a beacon of light, but shadows loomed. Isaiah's restaurant faced pressure from a new corporate owner, who demanded flashier dishes that clashed with Isaiah's vision. Javier, meanwhile, struggled with a tight deadline for his next book, his creativity stifled by self-doubt. They leaned on each other, but tension crept in. One night, after a long shift, Isaiah snapped at Javier over a forgotten grocery run. Javier retreated to the couch, sketching in silence. "I'm sorry," Isaiah said later, sitting beside him. Javier took his hand. "We're stronger than this." Their wedding planning offered a reprieve. They dreamed of a small ceremony on a cliff in Big Sur, where the ocean would witness their vows. But as the date approached, Isaiah's thoughts drifted to his mother. He hadn't heard from Lorraine in nearly a decade, but her absence ached. Javier noticed his quiet moments and suggested, "Maybe you should reach out for closure." Isaiah shook his head. "She doesn't deserve it." Fate, however, had other plans. One rainy afternoon, as Isaiah prepped for dinner service, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. He ignored it, but the voicemail stopped him cold. It was Lorraine, her voice frail and trembling. "Isaiah, I need your help. Please." He stood frozen, the kitchen's chaos fading as memories flooded back. Her anger, her rejection, the door slamming behind him. He played the message for Javier that night. "She sounds desperate," Javier said, his brow furrowed. "What do you want to do?" Isaiah's jaw tightened. "Nothing. She didn't want me then. Why should I care now?" But as he lay awake, her voice haunted him. What could make her reach out after all these years? Against his better judgment, Isaiah called back. Lorraine answered, her voice barely a whisper. She was in a hospital in Tacoma, battling cancer, with no one to turn to. Her husband had left, her savings were gone, and she faced eviction from her small apartment. "I know I don't deserve it," she said, "but you're all I have left." Isaiah's heart pounded. Part of him wanted to hang up, to let her feel the abandonment he'd endured. But another part, a softer, stubborn part, couldn't let go. He told Javier, expecting support. Instead, Javier hesitated. "She hurt you, Isaiah. You don't owe her anything." Isaiah bristled. "So I should just let her die alone?" Their voices rose, the first real fight in years. Javier stormed out, needing space. Isaiah sat alone, torn between anger and guilt. The next day, Javier returned, his eyes red. "I'm scared for you," he admitted. "I don't want her to hurt you again." Isaiah pulled him close. "I need to do this. Not for her. For me." Javier nodded, and they held each other, their love a steady anchor in the storm. Isaiah drove to Tacoma, his stomach churning. The hospital was stark, its fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows. Lorraine looked small in her bed, her once vibrant face gaunt and pale. She was 52 now, but illness made her seem older. "Isaiah," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry." Isaiah stood frozen by his mother's hospital bed, her apology hanging in the air. Lorraine's eyes, once sharp with judgment, were now soft with regret. "I was wrong," she said, her voice breaking. "I let fear and ignorance take you from me." Isaiah wanted to believe her, but the pain of that rainy night 9 years ago clawed at his chest. He sat, unsure where to begin. Lorraine spoke first, her words halting. She'd grown up in a strict household, where being gay was a sin unspoken. When Isaiah came out, her fear of judgment, from her church, her community, herself, overwhelmed her love for him. "I thought I was saving you," she said, "but I lost you instead." Isaiah's throat tightened. "You didn't just lose me. You threw me away." Lorraine flinched, tears spilling. She didn't defend herself, only nodded. "I know. And I've hated myself every day since." He left the hospital shaken, unsure what to feel. Part of him wanted to forgive, to bridge the gap between them. But another part, the boy who'd shivered on Portland streets, screamed for justice. He drove back to Seattle in silence, the weight of her words pressing against him. Javier was waiting, his sketchbook open to a new drawing. 2 figures on a cliff, hands clasped, facing the sea. "For our wedding," he said softly. Isaiah managed to smile, but Javier saw the turmoil in his eyes. "What happened?" he asked. Isaiah recounted the visit, his voice raw. Javier listened, then pulled him into a hug. "You don't have to decide anything now. Just let yourself feel." Over the next weeks, Isaiah wrestled with his emotions. He visited Lorraine again, then again, each trip peeling back layers of pain. She shared stories of her own struggles, losing her job, her health, her pride. Isaiah saw glimpses of the mother he'd once known, the one who'd sung him to sleep as a child. But he also saw the woman who'd chosen fear over love. Meanwhile, their wedding plans moved forward. Javier's book was a hit, easing their financial strain, and Isaiah's restaurant thrived despite the corporate pressure. They picked out suits, planned a menu inspired by their cultures. Jamaican jerk chicken for Isaiah's roots, tamales for Javier's. But Lorraine's presence loomed over Isaiah's joy. Should he invite her? Could he? One night, as they walked through Pike Place Market, Javier stopped at a flower stall. "If you want her there, I'll support you," he said, handing Isaiah a bouquet of sunflowers. "But only if it's what you need." Isaiah's eyes stung. Javier's love, unwavering even in conflict, was a reminder of what family could be. Isaiah decided to help Lorraine, but with boundaries. He paid for her hospital bills and found her a small apartment in Tacoma, but he kept his distance emotionally. "I'm not ready to forgive," he told her during a visit, "but I won't let you suffer." Lorraine nodded, gratitude and guilt in her eyes. "I'll wait," she said, As long as it takes. As the wedding approached, Isaiah felt lighter. He and Javier drove to Big Sur, their hearts full. The cliffside venue was perfect, the ocean stretching endlessly before them. Friends from the shelter, the restaurant, and Javier's art world gathered. A chosen family of misfits and dreamers. Isaiah's sous chef, Marla, officiated, her voice warm and steady. But the night before the ceremony, Isaiah got a call. Lorraine was back in the hospital, her condition worsening. "She's asking for you," the nurse said. Isaiah's heart sank. He looked at Javier, who was arranging table settings. "Go," Javier said. "I'll be here." Isaiah drove through the night, the road blurring with memories. At the hospital, Lorraine was frail but awake. "I didn't want to miss your wedding," she whispered. Isaiah's anger flared. Why now, when he was finally happy? But her next words stopped him. "I want to see you live the life I tried to take from you." Isaiah sat by Lorraine's bedside, her words echoing. "I want to see you live the life I tried to take from you." For the first time, he saw not just the mother who'd rejected him, but a woman broken by her own mistakes, desperate to make amends. He didn't know if he could forgive, but he felt the stirrings of compassion. "I can't stay," he said, his voice steady but soft. "Tomorrow's my wedding." Lorraine's eyes lit up, a faint smile breaking through her pain. "You're getting married?" she asked. Isaiah nodded, describing Javier, the man who'd held him through the darkest nights, who'd built a life with him from nothing. Lorraine listened, her hands trembling. "I'd give anything to see it," she said. Isaiah drove back to Big Sur, his mind a storm. He told Javier everything, expecting a fight. Instead, Javier took his hand. "If you want her there, I'm okay with it. This is your story, too." Isaiah's heart swelled. Javier's selflessness was a gift he'd never take for granted. The morning of the wedding dawned golden, the Pacific Ocean glittering below the cliff. Isaiah and Javier stood side by side, their suits crisp, their smiles nervous but radiant. Marla began the ceremony, her words weaving their story, of two boys who'd found each other in the ashes of rejection, who'd built a love that defied the odds. As they exchanged vows, Isaiah's voice cracked. "Javier, you taught me that family is what we choose. I choose you forever." Javier, tears streaming, replied, "Isaiah, you're my home, my heart, my everything." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Isaiah's eyes caught a figure at the edge of the gathering. Lorraine, frail in a wheelchair, had been brought by a nurse. She'd insisted on coming, despite her pain. Isaiah froze, his joy tinged with unease. Javier squeezed his hand, grounding him. "It's okay," he whispered. After the ceremony, Isaiah approached Lorraine. She reached for his hand, her grip weak but warm. "You're so happy," she said, tears falling. "I'm so proud, and so sorry." Isaiah didn't know what to say. He didn't forgive her, not fully, but he let her hold his hand, a small bridge across a vast divide. The reception was a blur of laughter, music, and dancing. Javier's illustrations adorned the tables, each one a piece of their journey. Isaiah's dishes, rich with flavor and memory, brought guests to tears. Lorraine watched from the sidelines, a quiet observer of the life her son had built without her. When the night ended, she left without a word, her presence a silent acknowledgement of his triumph. Back in Seattle, Isaiah and Javier settled into married life. Isaiah's restaurant earned a Michelin star, a testament to his talent. Javier's second book became a bestseller, his art inspiring kids across the country. But Lorraine's health continued to decline. Isaiah visited when he could, each trip a mix of duty and healing. She never asked for forgiveness again, only listened as he shared stories of his life. One evening, Lorraine gave Isaiah a letter. "Read it when you're ready," she said. He tucked it away, unsure if he'd ever open it. Weeks later, she passed away. Isaiah sat with Javier, the letter in his hands. He read it aloud, his voice trembling. Lorraine wrote of her regret, her love, and her pride in the man he'd become. "I don't expect forgiveness," she wrote, "but I hope you know I loved you, even when I failed you." Isaiah wept, not just for her but for the boy he'd been, the one who'd thought he'd never be enough. Javier held him, their love a light that no darkness could dim. Lorraine's death left Isaiah in a quiet turmoil. Her letter, now folded in his wallet, was a weight he carried, part pain, part closure. He and Javier returned to their life in Seattle, but something had shifted. Isaiah felt a need to honor not just his survival, but the journey that had made him whole. He threw himself into his work, creating a new menu at the hearth inspired by his past. Dishes like Portland rain stew and Big Sur sunset salmon told his story, blending his Black heritage with Javier's Latino roots. Critics raved, but for Isaiah it was about healing, turning pain into something nourishing. Javier, too, poured his heart into a new book, a story of two boys finding love against all odds. He dedicated it to Isaiah, his muse and anchor. One spring, Isaiah and Javier started a foundation for queer youth kicked out of their homes. They called it Haven, a nod to the shelter that had saved them. The foundation offered scholarships, job training, and safe spaces, helping kids like their younger selves chase dreams. Isaiah taught cooking classes, his laughter filling the room as teens learned to make his recipes. Javier led art workshops, his sketches guiding them to express their own stories. Their work drew attention. A local news outlet covered Haven, and soon donations poured in. Isaiah and Javier spoke at events, sharing their story, not just of pain, but of triumph. "We were cast out," Isaiah told a crowd, "but we built a family stronger than the one we lost." Javier stood beside him, his hand in Isaiah's, a quiet testament to their love. Years later, on their 10th anniversary, they returned to Big Sur. The cliff where they'd married was unchanged, the ocean still vast and wild. They stood hand in hand, the wind carrying their laughter. Isaiah thought of Lorraine, of her letter, of the boy he'd been. He hadn't fully forgiven her, but he'd found peace. Her mistakes had shaped him, but her love, however flawed, had been real. Javier pulled out a sketchbook, showing Isaiah a new drawing. Two men, older now, standing on the same cliff, their hands still clasped. "This is us in 20 years, he said, grinning. Isaiah laughed, pulling him close. "You're stuck with me that long?" "Forever," Javier replied, kissing him softly. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Isaiah felt a profound gratitude for Javier, for their chosen family, for the strength to rise above rejection. They'd been cast out, left to fend for themselves, but they'd built a life of love, purpose, and impact. Haven grew, helping hundreds of kids find their way. Isaiah's restaurant became a beacon of inclusivity, its tables filled with people from all walks of life. Javier's books lined shelves, inspiring a new generation to dream boldly. In quiet moments, Isaiah would touch the letter in his wallet, a reminder of where he'd come from and how far he'd gone. He didn't need his mother's approval anymore. He had Javier, their shared dreams, and a community that loved them for who they were. The boy who'd stood in the rain, cast out and alone, had become a man who'd found his place in the world, a place built on love, resilience, and the courage to choose his own family. Their story wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. And as they stood on that cliff, the ocean roaring below, Isaiah knew they'd keep writing it, together, for the rest of their lives.